Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new here, my name is Sierra, and I'd love if you hit the subscribe button and like the video. And anyways, I hope you enjoy my top 5 tips for getting an external cephalic version. So I have 2 babies, 2 little girls, a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. And both of them were breached by the time, the whole time, I guess, like once it was important to know the position that they were in. And so I had to get a version with both of them. And I'm assuming if you're here and you're watching this, you know what a version is, but if you're watching this and you don't, an external cephalic version is when your baby is breached and they want to turn the baby so that you can have a vaginal birth instead of a C-section, and they do it externally. So they get their hands on your stomach and they move the baby. They turn the baby so the head is down. And I have had both of my babies in different states, and my doctors both did it, so I don't know how common it is in every country, but personally I've had it done twice and they're both successful. So I wanted to give my tips on what I've learned from my experience with my versions and the things that I'm going to take with me. Hopefully I don't have to have another one when we have more kids, but I'm kind of leaning towards that my babies are just more comfortable in the breech position. I do have a video of my past version. My first version we didn't film, but this past one with my baby girl, Greta, we did film it. And so I will link that or put it in the description below so you can go watch that. So with May, my first little girl, we had a C-section planned, and the doctor tried to budge her a little bit while I was in the doctor's office, and she just would not budge. So he was like, he did a few doctor's appointments, and he was like, I don't think it's even worth trying to do a version, so we'll just plan on the C-section. And I came to grips with it. But one night I felt like I was starting, I don't know if I thought that my water broke or I felt like I was having some type of contraction, which I never experienced it before. So we called, they're like, just come in. We don't, they didn't want me to go into labor when my baby was breached. So I went in, and my doctor miraculously was there, and they decided to do a version. I didn't have an experience with it. I didn't really study it that much because I wasn't expecting on having it done. But they gave me a shot in my arm, and I was like, oh, is this pain medicine? And they're like, no, this is just to relax your uterus. And so that I wouldn't have contractions while I was trying to move May around so her head was down. And to be completely honest, I think it went a lot quicker with May than with Greta. One thing was my doctor was like, I'm assuming he was like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", and his hands were huge, and he was this big guy, and it was painful, and I remember having bruises on my stomach afterwards, and I did it with no medication. But I went home that night, so I think that they were checking her heartbeat, but a lot of times, for example, with my second baby with Greta, they want you in there just in case there's an emergency, so that they can just immediately have an emergency C-section if needs be. So, but he sent me home that night, and I ended up having the baby. We went on Thursday, I think that was a Tuesday, and then on Thursday we went in, when I was supposed to have the C-section, went into his office, and he said, well, do you want to just schedule an induction? And I said yes, because I was ready to, I was like planning on having her that day, on Thursday, the day that I was in there at the doctor's office. And so, and my mom was coming, and it just worked really well. So then with Greta, my doctor, it was really funny because my doctor had said like, oh, I feel her head and all these things. And she's like, let's just make sure. So we went in, had an ultrasound done, and it wasn't her head. She's like, I'm worried that it isn't her head, that it's her sacrum. And it was her bum that she was feeling. So I was like, oh my goodness. Because I think that doctor had told me that it wasn't that common to have another breech baby. But it happened to me. So we came to the conclusion that I would go into the hospital on the set day, which was September 17th. And I would prep for a C-section, which I did. I also have this vlog linked down, so it's the same vlog as the version, but then there's a second part when I actually have Greta. So I'll link both of those. So I went in, and then she was planning on doing the version. So she did the version, and it was intense. There was a guy there that was the ultrasound tech, and then there was the nurse that kept checking the baby's vitals, Greta's vitals, and Greta was doing great. She was doing just fine, but it was extremely painful. Like one of the top pains I've ever experienced. I'm not trying to scare you away from aversion. I have these tips, so just hold on for just a second. She was able to turn her after pushing one way, and Greta made a little bit of leeway, but then came back, and then she pushed the other way. She pushed Greta backwards to do a backflip, and she went into position. So the reason they wanted me there also was we would have just had a C-section right after if it didn't work, but also she wanted to make sure that Greta's head stayed down. So immediately after that, she broke my water, and then I got on Pitocin soon later and got my epidural, I think a few hours later. And anyways, I had 2 successful versions. So here are my tips on that I hope that people listen to before they have a version that would have helped me out because I have an older sister and I have a younger sister, and neither of them have had a version before. In fact, no one in my family I know has had one. Maybe I have an aunt or something that has had a version. But here are my tips on the best way to handle an external cephalic version. So the first tip I have is to accept the pain medication that they're giving you. So like I said, with my first, I didn't have any pain medication, and they didn't offer me any. They didn't offer any, so I didn't have a choice, I didn't really have a choice. And my epidural with May wore off, and it was just funky. I think it was my left leg. It didn't work on that leg. After a little while, it wore off on that, and then all these crazy things. So I was like, I don't want to get an epidural beforehand and have it work during the version, but not when I'm having her. So I was like, I don't want to get the epidural, and my doctor was like, okay, that's fine. And she told me before, like, if you want to, anytime that you want to, we can give you fentanyl. I think that's what it was called, a pain medication through the IV. And so my tip is to get the epidural if you don't think that you're going to be able to handle the pain very well. If you've watched my video of me having my version with Greta, you can see that I am in excruciating pain. And about 3/4 of the way through, I asked for fentanyl. And honestly, it didn't do much for the pain. It made me really dizzy, so it made me kind of forget about the pain the tiniest bit, but I think it kind of just added to it. Maybe towards the end it helped a little bit, but if you get it before, I'm assuming that it'll help you a lot more. Also, my anesthetist, my anesthesiologist told me that if the epidural didn't work, I got it when I was in labor with Greta. And he told me that he could give me he could fix it and do another one if he needed to. That probably would have cost me more money, but he said maybe not. Maybe they would have said they did it wrong, and I don't know. But those are just things to keep in mind. So if you don't think that you're gonna be able to handle the pain very well, and you're going in that day to have the baby no matter what, if you get a C-section, you need to get an epidural or a spinal block anyways. So I would say get the epidural or the pain medication. My second tip is to have a support person there. So I had my husband there, and for both of them, it was just my husband, and it was really helpful. He wasn't right next to me. I don't think for either of them. He wasn't right next to me because there wasn't really space for him. Maybe for the first one, he was standing next to me. I'll have to ask him. But just knowing that my husband's here, or my mom is here, or my mom and husband are here, it is really, I think emotionally, just really kind of something that will help you get through the pain, or just and if you have an epidural or some type of medication, you wouldn't really feel that, but it's just nice having somebody there. My third tip is to relax and to not clench your jaw or your hands or your feet, because when you're clenched up, I mean, it doesn't mean they've given you medicine so that your uterus would be relaxed, but I feel like you feel the pain that much more intensely when you're not relaxed. So when you relax and you focus on, like, okay, she's pushing extremely, extremely, extremely hard right now, but I am going to be as relaxed as possible. I think it really helps to get through that pain. And I think it probably also does help so that the baby will be able to move more, so that your stress levels are down, and so the baby's stress levels are down, so the baby will be more inclined to move. My next tip goes along with relaxing, and it's to breathe. When you're doing a push-up, and my husband was doing some push-ups the other night, and I was like, just breathe, breathe. And it's hard when you're doing a push-up because you just want to keep going, and you don't want to breathe through the exertion and the pain, I guess, through a push-up. But it's similar. I think it's pretty similar when you're going through intense pain. I think that it's probably the pain and the stress and just the trauma from the experience, not wanting to focus on your breathing, or not just focusing on your breathing, but not wanting to, or not naturally breathing in a calm way. But for me, and even when I was having my daughter May, when I focused on my breathing and breathing in and then breathing out, like it really, really helped me with this version and with May's birth. And so my tip with that is just to, I mean, I don't know exactly to practice breathing. They do that. I mean, I think in like when you're in like birth classes, you can practice breathing, and maybe it's the same thing. But for me, it was just like, okay, this hurts so bad. I'm going to like breathe, you know, like full deep breaths. That was kind of goofy, but that honestly helped me get through it really, really well. I had to go get my little girl. We had a little bit of some waking ups, huh? Did your little sister almost wake up? Yeah, can you say I'm May? May. Yeah, you just woke up, huh? My last tip is a little bit cheesy, but it's just to stay positive. I was so okay with having a C-section this time because of how hard my May's birth was. So I was thinking, okay, like this is gonna be great. If it doesn't work, I'll have a C-section, I won't feel that pain. Just go to the hospital and within a couple hours just have a baby. Yeah, you came. You wanna come to the hospital? But you were there, huh? She was in my belly, huh? She was in my belly. May was in my belly. So during it, I kind of got a little bit, after the version happened with Greta, I was like, dang it. But I'm so, so grateful that the version worked. In no way am I saying that I'm ungrateful, because I'm so grateful that it worked. And for all that pain too, going through that and then having it be successful is so great. And the birth, you can watch my birth vlog, like I said, or Greta's birth vlog, because it was just so peaceful and so amazing. And I'm just so grateful that the versions worked for me. And not saying that they'll work for every single person, but I hope these tips have helped. And when we stay positive, no matter the outcome, I think that especially during the version, you'll be able to get through it a little bit better. Just by being positive and knowing that this is going to end. It's not going to be all day. The longest, I think with May, it took like 7 or 8 minutes. With Greta, it took like 15 or 20 minutes. So, or like 10 to 20 minutes. But it will end and you will get through it and it will be successful, or maybe it won't. And if it doesn't, then great, you get to have a C-section and have a baby. And if it does work, then great, you get to have your baby vaginally. So I hope that this was helpful and that your experience with an external cephalic version goes well, and that these tips have helped and have given you a little bit of peace. Anyways, hope you have a good day. Like I said, like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Keep a little kiss. Good job. Hello. Hello.